Hi everyone, this is Deekshit. Welcome to my channel. In this particular video, we will gonna discuss about DevOps Mock Interview 2 answers. So if you have not watched the DevOps Mock Interview 2, please do watch it before watching this video. So let's get into the questions. The first question was on Git. So the first question was, let's say your organization has a GitHub and Bitbucket to store the code. You have cloned the repo onto your local and then changed the directory name to something else. And after some days, one of your team member asks you to share the clone link. How would you provide the same? So you want to keep one thing in mind. So now once you clone the repository, it will gonna create the folder name. So as your repo name, as same as your repo name, and it means like if you don't explicitly mention it, like it will gonna create the same name with your repo name itself. And you have changed that. If your a team member asks you the clone link, how would you provide that? Because you have changed your folder name. So when you search that folder name in your GitHub or a Bitbucket, you won't be able to find a particular project with that name. So then how would you provide that? So what we will do, we will go to one of my mission and then we will replicate the same scenario. So let me go into my mission. So I don't have any files other than Jenkins.war. So what I'll do is I'll go to my GitHub. I have this Kubernetes repo. So what I'll do is let me clone this one, git clone and the clone URL. So when I do this one, so the Kubernetes repo will be cloned onto my machine. And now when I do ls, so I have the files. Okay, so now what you did is like assume like due to some issues, so I've just changed the folder name from Kubernetes to something a test. Okay, so or else like let's say you have created xyz and with a random number. Okay, so due to some many reasons you have changed this one. So now your colleague asks you like can you share me the clone link? So in that case, like you can't give this name. So when I go and when I search it with this name, so it might like I'm taking a public GitHub thing. So you might see this kind of repos, but in your organization you might never see these kind of the repo names, right? So this is not correct. So in that case, how would you provide the clone link for him? So you can go inside that particular folder, whatever I've cloned and whatever you have changed. So then there is a command git remote -v. When you type in this, click on enter. So then it will gonna show from where you have cloned this particular repo. So you can share this link and then you'll be able to clone this particular repository. So if you want to share the clone link, so then you can go inside your the folder and then you can give git remote -v. Okay, so let's jump onto the next question. So next question was, I have a shell script to delete a particular dependency in a repo. So I mean, I've just taken as an example repo as a Maven project. So before running this script, so I need to clone the repo to my local. Here the point to be noted is I don't want to clone all the branches and all the commits in all the branches. I want to clone only the master branch and only the last commit, because in each branch you might have different a lot of commits. Like let's say if your project is developed from since 2 years, so then you might see a couple of like thousands of commits. So I don't need that because I'm just doing a small change. I need a last commit. So I don't want to see the commit history or something else. If you see my last answers video, I've shown you like how to clone a particular branch. So if you want in a branch also, there'll be like so what we will do is first we will clone a particular branch and then we will try to clone only the last commit. Okay, so let me go back, and what I'll do is I'll just remove this folder. So let me do git clone, and then again I'll try to clone the same thing. So now I'll gonna include few options. One is -b, and then so I'm giving master. I want to clone only master. If you want to do that, I need to give a single branch. Okay, and I'm giving a clone link. So when I do this one, so only the master will be cloned onto my local. So now if I go inside this particular folder, And then when I type in git log hyphen one line, so I'll be able to see the lot of commits. So the main thing here is, as you can see here, so now it is downloading, like receiving objects are 296, and so resolved is 136 and 92 objects. So there are these many objects. So I want to still, like, I want to, if the commit history is more, in my case, I guess I have only 60 commits. So 63 commits. Okay. So, but in case of, like, let's say your project is there since last 2 years. So then obviously the commit history of that would have been huge, and your .git folder will increase like anything, right? So to avoid that, I want to clone only the last commit. So how we can do that? So let me go back again. So again, I'll gonna remove that directory because I'm just trying to cloning the same repository. Okay, so what I'll do is git clone and the clone link. So before this, let me clear the screen, and then so now I'm gonna include one more option, which is git clone -b master and hyphen single branch, and then what I'll do is hyphen depth one. So this is the option. It will gonna download, means clones only the last commit. Now you can see the number of objects that it will gonna clone is reduced, right? And also it is faster. Okay, now when I go inside this Kubernetes folder, and then when I check for git log hyphen one line, so now I'll be able to see only one commit, so which is the last commit. Okay, so this is how, if you want to reduce your clone time for a simple task, and if you want to clone only the last commit, so then you can use this hyphen depth one, so which clones only the last commit. Okay, so let's get on to the next question. So what is submodule and why we need to use the submodule? So submodule is basically, it's a record within the host Git repository that points to a specific commit in another external repository. So submodules are very static and only tracks the specific commit. So if you see this picture, maybe you'll get a better idea. So if you want to give a simple example, like let's say this is one of the cart application and this is some calculator application. So the common thing between these two things are like operators, like it can be addition, subtraction or something. Okay, so once you have addition, some common functionalities, so the requirement is you need to copy the code manually. You need to store a folder of code. So whatever the common code is there, you need to keep as a folder in the client and server part. Okay, so in that case, so rather than like manually copying and manually keeping it, so you can refer whichever the commit you want in this common repository. You can refer it from the main repositories itself. In that case, what happens is like so it will gonna, like when you do a clone, when you do, I mean whatever, when you do a build also, so it will gonna go here and it will fetch the particular commit, and then it will gonna you can include in your project whatever you're working on. Okay, and also I mean sometimes it is disadvantage also, because whenever there is an update in common, like in this picture, so whenever there is a new commit for this common repository, so it won't automatically change the things in client and a server. So it will gonna point to a particular commit. So if new commits are there, so then you need to point this pointer to the new commits. Okay, submodule do not track the git references on the branch that are not automatically updated when the host repository is updated. Means like whenever there is a new commits, so you need to point, like you need to manually come and you need to point to that new commits. So it won't automatically done by git. Okay, so now, so the next question was, let's say you have changed the 5 files A, B, C, D, E in a repo, and you did git add, and now all the 5 files in the stage, now all the 5 files like A, B, C, D, E are in the staging area. So due to some reasons, I decided that like I don't want to push a D file to, like I don't want to commit it and I don't want to push it. So I want to delete it from staging area, but I should keep it in my local, because I I wanted to do few more changes to that, and then I wanted to push. Okay, in that case, what is the command to achieve this? So it is very simple. So let me go to my mission. So let me clear the screen. Okay, I'm inside Git repository, right? So what I'll do, I'll just gonna create 5 files: A, B, C, D, E. Okay, now when you do git status, so it will gonna give what are all the files which are not committed. I guess you're able to see the questions and tracked files. So when I do git commit, so now let me do git add. So add dot. So when I do this one, now when I do git status, it will be in a staging area. So new file A, B, C, D, E. So now I decide that like I don't want to push, like I don't want to commit this D file. So how can I take it back to my local? So from the staging to the local. So the command for that is git rm --- cast and the file name. When I do this one, so now when I do git status, okay, so you won't be able to see the D file in the staging. As you can see, it is in my local. So if you want to push this one, so then again I need to issue git add, git commit, and then push it. Okay, now when I commit it, so only these files will go into the next stage, and then only I'll be able to push it. Okay, so this is how, if you want to like take the file back from staging to your local, so this is how you will do it. So let's move on to the next question. So the next questions were on Maven. The first question was what is multi-module project, and also the configurations that you need to do in parent and child projects, and what is dependency management. So multi-module project is built-in from aggregator form that manages all the group of submodules. So now you might be confused when I show you a repo with an example, so then you might have a proper idea. In most cases, the aggregator is located in project's root directory and must have a packaging type form. So these are the settings that you need to maintain, like if you want to do a multi-module project, or if you want to create a multi-module project, so you need to set the packaging type of a root pom.xml with packaging type as pom. I'm going to show that as well. So now the submodules are regular Maven projects, and they can be built separately or through aggregator pom.xml. Okay, so let's get into GitHub. So I have one repo. So the name of that is Maven examples. So if you want to play with these repos, so you can go ahead and you can fork these things. And here, so there is something called as dependency management. So this is multi-module project. This case, so I have, so this is how multi-module project will be. So one is the pom.xml, the root pom.xml. This is the aggregator pom.xml. And I have sub projects like addition, subtraction. So you can have multiple, like there is no limit that you need to have these many submodules. It depends on your project, how many ever the submodules you need, you can keep it. So this is the aggregator pom.xml. So in this, you need to do few settings. The first and foremost thing is the packaging should be pom here. Okay, so by default it is jar. If you want to create a var file, so then the packaging type is var. But if you want to do a multi-module project, then the packaging should be pom. Okay, and also you need to define the modules. So in this case, so I have two modules, means like two child projects. So one is addition. The artifact ID of that child project should be given here, module. Okay, subtraction and addition. So you need to define two things that you want to maintain in your parent pom. Is like one is packaging type should be pom, and the modules block. Okay, these are the two things. And in child project also, you need to do few settings. The first setting is in pom.xml, you need to define a parent. So what is this parent? So the aggregator dot the root pom.xml was there, right? So the group ID, artifact ID of that is copied here. Okay, you need to define the parent here. In root, you need to define packaging as pom, and also modules. So wherein like you will define the submodules there. So in child projects, you need to have a parent tag, and you need to give the group ID, GAVs of your parent. These are the three settings that you need to do when you want to do a multi-module project. So as I mentioned, like you can individually run these projects. So you can come inside dependency management and subtraction folder, and then you can type in mbin install. So that is also possible. Or else if you want to build all the submodules, all the sub projects at a time, so then you can in the root directory you can give issue commands like mbin install, mbin deploy. Depending on your requirement, you can give that. Okay, so these are the settings that you need to do for multi-module project. And also other part of the question was, what is dependency management? So dependency management is a core feature in a Maven. So managing dependencies, like when you have a multiple sub projects, like in my case, I have only two. But when you have a many projects, like more than like 10 to 12 sub projects, so in that case, what you can do is you can have something called as multi-module. You can have something called as dependency management in your aggregated form. So when like you can easily maintain your dependencies. So let's go back to the GitHub. So I'm going to show you an example. So here, if you see, I have dependency management in my root pom.xml, right? So here, as you can observe, so all the dependencies I've defined here. Okay. So the version, all the configurations, if I do some configurations, I want to do some exclusions, all the settings that you're going to do here. And so in child projects, so I can refer these dependencies by just calling with their artifact ID in group ID. And if you want to change the scope, you can change it. So by just referring group ID and artifact ID, I can use those dependencies. So in my case, like if I want to update some version or some configuration, rather than updating in all the sub projects where I've used, so what you can do is you can just update it in this dependency management. So it will be taken into account in all the sub projects, right? So like, let's say I have 10 projects, I've used the same dependencies. So rather than defining it and duplicating my dependency part, so I can define everything, all the configurations in a main form, and then I can refer it easily in my child projects. So sometimes, like if your manager has like changed the version of this servlet API. So then if you change here, it will be taken into account in all the child projects, right? So if you don't want to do that, so then you need to have the each and everything you want to define it in every project. And if one version changes, you need to change all those things. So those things are maintained very easily by using dependency management. Okay. And the next question was, what is transitive dependency? So transitive dependency means, so A depends on B, B depends on C, and then A depends both on B, C. So I'll just gonna explain with an example. So transitivity brings very serious problem when different versions of the same artifacts are included by different dependencies. So now we will have a look at this with a simple example. So before that, what I'll do is I'll just gonna clone this particular repository. Okay, so let me go to this and cd git clone, and I'm giving a clone link. So let me go inside Maven examples. In that, I'll go to simple. I guess I have some folder again here. So what I'll do is I'll go to sample project, sample Java. Let's go to dependency management itself. Okay, so I'm inside dependency management. So now when I do MVN dependency tree, so I'll get the list of transitive dependencies. We can see the tree like structure. So the output it will gonna give. So wherein I can view like what are all the transitive dependency. So in a layman terms, if I want to say transitive dependency, so in our project we have used a couple of dependencies, right? So those are also Maven projects itself. So it has been developed by some other people. So we are using those things in our project. So while developing those dependencies, they might definitely use some dependencies to achieve their task, right? So that is why, so those dependencies, like if I've used, in my case, C, I've used Surefire dependency. So in Surefire dependency, while they developing, so they have used many other dependencies. So even those things will be downloaded when I build my project. So why this becomes the transitive sometimes transitive dependency become problematic is, so this dependency uses this particular Surefire API plugin, so which is of version 2.19.1. Okay, so like let's say you have used one more dependency, even that particular dependency uses Surefire API, which is the version like 3.0.0. Okay, so there is a mismatch. So in runtime, so it will be a lot of complications, and it is also able to solve those issues. So in that case, what you can do is we have something called as exclusions. So by using that, you can make sure that that particular transitive dependency is excluded. So in my case, if you see, so as an example, so I mean, if I take it off that also, it won't create any problem. But to show how we can exclude particular transitive dependency, so under particular dependency, so you need to identify what dependency, transitive dependency, I shouldn't include in my runtime, the project dependencies. So then you can include that exclusions block. So then you need to give group ID and artifact ID of that. So it will be excluded that time. Okay. So this is how, if you want to exclude it, so you can do that exclusion also. Okay. And as I mentioned earlier, so it may cause version mismatch, because one of the dependency, if it is using 2.19.9 and another is using 3.0.0, so it will be little complications. So that's why it is better, like do a transitive dependency, have a look into that, like if any version mismatches, so then do a exclusion of that. Okay. The next part, next questions was on Jenkins. The Jenkins first question was, have you worked on commit-based job? You should say yes. And what are all the configurations you need to do in Jenkins and also GitHub? So it is straightforward. The first one is, my Jenkins is already up and running. So let me log in for that. Right. Okay. So now, so what we will do is, I'm gonna take a repository, so wherein I'll gonna create the Kubernetes repository. I'll take, so I'll try to create a webhook for that. So commit based job, when you want to configure commit based job, the first and foremost thing is like you need to have a webhook. Okay, so what I'll do is okay, so I'll just reduce my screen size. The first and foremost thing what you need to do is you need to click on settings. So whichever you want to do, like you want to enable commit based job. So the commit based job, in the sense like whenever anyone commits particular to a particular repo, it should trigger a job in Jenkins. So that is what called as commit based job. Okay, the first and foremost thing, you need to click on settings in your repo, and then there will be a in the left menu, so you can see webhook. So you need to click on there, and then when you click on that, so you'll be able to see some add button. So you need to click on add webhook, and then you need to give, so it will prompt you to give your password. So then you need to give your information, like here. So you need to give your Jenkins URL /git webhook. I've already have one, so that's why I'm not creating it. And also you need to select what events you need. So if you need only push event, then you can select this one. If you need everything like push, if someone deletes some file, or like if anything happens in this GitHub, if you want to intimate this one to Jenkins, so then you can enable, you can select this send me everything. So in my case, I just need push event, right? So I can just select and I can add a webhook. But in my case, I've already created. And so when I just click on edit, so these are all the things, like this is my Jenkins endpoint. And also this is the suffix that you need to use, GitHub -webhook. Okay. And I'm giving like just a push event. So then you can tick like this is by default, which will be ticked, which is active. So when you click on this, so first time when you click it, like it will be add. So when you do this one, so a green right tick mark you can see. So that means like it is able to communicate with your Jenkins. If it is something like a red mark or a warning mark, so then that says like your webhook is not properly configured. means like GitHub is not properly able to communicate with your Jenkins. Okay, so now the next thing is in Jenkins. So what we will do is we will gonna create a job. Okay, so let me take a job name as webhook. Okay, and then I'll gonna select the freestyle job type, because we're just checking the commit based job. When there is a commit in my GitHub, I need to trigger this job. Okay, so now what I'll do is let me click on code and get the clone URL. So here you need to select the Git as my SCM, and also I'll give this particular clone link. And then once that is done, so as this is a public one, I don't need any credentials. And also you need to check this checkbox GitHub Git hook trigger for Git SCM polling. So once this is done, just save it. Okay, so now once that is saved, so I'll gonna go to my this particular repository. I'll gonna change readme.md. Okay, so in this case I'll just change the readme.md, and it should create it should basically trigger a build in my Jenkins. So when I commit this one, so I should be able to see when I refresh it, I should be able to, as you can see, one build is triggered already. So here I'm just cloning it and then making my build successful. That's all. Okay. So as you can see here, when I go to console output, so you'll be able to see who has triggered. So it is triggered by GitHub push running as a system. So that means I am not triggered manually, which is triggered by GitHub push. Okay. So this is how if you want to create like commit based job. So this is how you need to have a webhook, and then you need to enable few things in Jenkins. The next question was you want to create 50 freestyle jobs with the same configuration, but only the change is job name. How would you create this one? Okay. So for this, like you need to use some Groovy scripting. So in my GitHub, I have already that script is already there. So what I'll do is I'll just gonna copy and I'll just show you how we can create it. So the file name is DSL script pipeline, and just click on this. So this is the script so that I'm using it for creating a pipeline job. So there in the slide I've mentioned freestyle, but anyway, like if you want to, so it's just like I'm just showing you like how we can execute these things easily, and how you can create 50 jobs like with the same configuration, but only the change in your name. So here I'm not creating 50 jobs, I'm just creating one. So you can just take for loop and you can keep the count to 50, and you can run the loop for 50 times. That you can do. But I'm just showing like one job, how we can create it very easily. So I can click on Jenkins and click on manage Jenkins. Once that is done, so there will be some option called as script console. So when you click on that, so the console window will be shown. So when I just run this Groovy script, so this Groovy script is for creating a pipeline job with the name new job, and also I'm giving this clone URL, which is this clone URL is set in that particular job. Okay, so when I click on Jenkins, now I should be able to see a new job. Okay, so this is how, if you want to like automate, you want to create all the 50 jobs, so then you can go ahead and you can run this particular script for 50 times, so rather than clicking manually and creating it. So I can even that, like you can take a for loop and you can keep the count for 50 and it will going to create it for you. So let's jump on to the next question. The next question was, how can you copy a job which is created in our local Jenkins instance to other local Jenkins instance? So here I don't have two instances. What I'll do is I'll just copy one job and make it like I'll create a copy of one job to another. Okay. So let's get on to our mission. So Jenkins, when you run it like in the UI, so obviously in the background, it will have some file system, right? So the file system will be in the user's home directory. So my home directory is this one. And so when I just do cd and .jenkins, I should be able to see this Jenkins file, .jenkins folder. Under this, I have something called as jobs folder. Okay. In this job folder, so I'll be having each folder, one folder for every job. If I want to create a job, another job with the same configuration, the main thing is I need to copy this config.xml related to your job to whichever the job I want to create. Okay. So assume like I want to create this particular job. So then what I can do is I can go back one folder. So what I'll do is I'll just gonna create mkdir. I'll just create a job name of copy -1. Okay. And I'll also, what I'll do is, let me go inside webhook, and then I'll just gonna copy -cp-r dot to my copy folder. So I should give dot and copy. So when I do this one, so when I do ls on dot copy, so I have all the files now, right? Now when I go back to my Jenkins, and then there is, you need to go to manage Jenkins, and here there will be option a reload from disk, configurations from disk. You need to click on this and click on OK. So when you do this one, as you can see, one more job which came up, which is copy -1. I've just created one folder and I copied config.xml of this job onto this one. So now when I go inside, and then when I just click on configure, all the settings that I did for that webhook job should be able to see here as well. See, I've given this link, and also I've just enabled git hook trigger, git SCM polling. So this is how you want to copy. So then you can give the config.xml via email, or you can share it with any shared drive, or you can upload it somewhere and you can download it, and you can create a folder in s.jenkins, and you can copy that config.xml, and then you can you can get the same configurations of the job. The next questions were on Unix. The first question was on shell scripting on Unix was a shell script which accepts one or more parameter. Sorry, it's not one or more. A script which accepts one parameter. It can be a file or a folder. So if it is a folder, so then I need to delete it. Else, if it is a file, like then I need to show it as this is file, and I can add up one more part. If it is not file or if it is not directory, means if you give random name which is not there, like if it is not a file or if it's not a directory, then it should say like the file or a directory is not existed. So let's get on to the mission. So we will execute these scripts. So I've already written these scripts. So let me go inside my GitHub and search for a repo called as shell scripts. Shell underscore script. So this is where I've kept all these things. So this is the script that I've written for this scenario. So this is very simple, as you can see here. So I'm just reading an input and I'm checking that input. There is a way, like when you give -d and directory name, so then it checks, like if it is a directory, so then it will go and it will execute the if part. If it is not a directory, so then it will go to the else if part, and then again I'm checking -f is for file. So if it is file, then it says like it is a file. If it is directory, so as we expected, it should delete. So I'm doing a rm-rf and the folder, and if it is a file, I'm just echoing like it is a file. And if it is not a file or not a directory, so then I'm just telling like file or a directory is not found. Okay. So now let me copy this particular code shell script onto my mission. So we will try to see this, like whether how it works. And I'll go to my directory, home directory. So I have few files here. So let me do, what I'll do is I'll just gonna create delete.sh. Let me paste whatever I've copied. Let me save this. And then when I do sh delete.sh, so it'll ask me like give me some file name. So what I'll do is I'll just give some random name. So 111 I'm giving, so which is not a file or a not a directory which I have. So when I give a enter, it says like entered value is 111 and file or a directory is not found. Now let me run it again. So when I give Kubernetes now, I have a folder with that name, right? Here I have Kubernetes. I'm giving the same name. So when I do this one, so it says like entered value is Kubernetes. Now when I do ls, Kubernetes directory should be deleted, right? So now when I do again one more run, so now when I give delete.sh, the same file name, it says like entered value is delete.sh. It is a file. It says it is a file. Okay. So this is how this is a simple script wherein like you can check, like I just wanted to make sure, so this -d if you use and if you give some input, if it is a directory, so then it will go and it will use not use, it will gonna execute if part. If it is -f, then it will gonna go, it will be true, this is set to true, and then it will gonna execute this else if part. If it is not, so then it will go to else and it will gonna like exit. Okay. And the next question was how to check whether the particular port is already used in a use or not. So as we are running Jenkins on my machine, so 8080 is used, right? So there is a command wherein you can check all listening ports. So the command is netstat, and then you need to give t. So T is for TCP, UDP protocols, and LP, N is for numeric values. So when you type in this one, you will be able to see what are all the ports which are listening. So 8080, as you can see, which is in a listen state. So other ports like this in the same machine, this machine I've used as a Kubernetes master also. As you can see, Kubernetes things are running. So when I don't give numbers, -n, so it gives me with like this Kubernetes master, Kubernetes. So the not like the numeric values it will gonna show. So that's why I just wanted to show that particular one. So that's the reason I've just given -n there. Okay. So if you don't give -n, so you will be able to see the name. So what it is used for and all. So the next question was logic for checking whether the supplied string is a palindrome or not. What are all the commands that you will use it for that? So basically to check that when you get a particular, you need to basically write a shell script. So I've, for this also I've already written a script. So in the same repo, there is something called as palindrome.sh. So this is very simple. I'm just again reading input from user, and then what I'm doing is I'm doing a reverse. I'm taking one variable, I'm doing an echo, and I'm just using a reverse command. So what it does, it will take the inputted value and it will gonna reverse, and then I'm just checking the entered value and this reversed value. If it is same, so then I'll say it is palindrome, or else I'll just gonna say it is not palindrome. So let's copy the simple script again onto our machine. Let me clear the screen. Vi palindrome. I'm just using short names, and I'm just copy pasting, and some part of it read, and so when I do sh palindrome and it is expecting some input. So if I give some palindrome, like let's give some random, so it should say it's not a palindrome. Okay. When I give some palindrome, it says like it is a palindrome. Okay. Palindrome is basically when you reverse your word, it should look same. It should be same. Okay. So that is, we'll call it as palindrome. So that is what I'm checking in this particular script. And command to get the number of lines in a file. So it is very simple. Again, we have a command for that. So cat palindrome.sh. So then we have a command which is wc -l is for number of lines. So there are 7 lines in this one. So there are a couple of options. When you give -c number of characters, it will give. When you do wc-w, it will give number of words. So in my requirement is like number of lines, right? Then I can give -l. And this is a pipe symbol. So when you want to transfer output from one command to another, so then you can use this pipe symbol. And the next questions was an Ansible. The first question was an Ansible was, let's say I have 4 missions. Consider one as Ansible master, other 3 nodes as nodes. So what are all the basic setups that you need to do? So in my case, I'm just explaining these things because I've already set up those things. What I'll do is, I guess I have a slide for that. So the prerequisite when you want to install Ansible, the first thing is you need to have Python installed on your machine. And then by using these commands, so you can install Ansible. If it is a Ubuntu, so that is, these are the instructions. If you want to do it for other things, I have a repo. So I guess it will gonna help you. So there is a repo called as cheat sheet. You can fork this and you can refer the installation. I have just installation guide for Ubuntu and also the CentOS. CentOS is this one. I guess installation guide. When I minimize this one, you'll be able to see. Yeah. So installation guide for CentOS and installation guide for Ubuntu. So whichever your distribution is, you can go ahead and you can use that. Okay, so you need to install Ansible on only your master. So you don't need to install Ansible on top of your nodes. So once that is done, so to configure nodes, so master should be it should be a Unix or Linux oriented machine. You can't take Ansible Windows as Ansible master. So it has to be Unix like kind of machines, distributed machines. And nodes can be anything. It can be a Windows or it can be Ubuntu, it can be a CentOS. And the first and foremost thing, you need to create a SSH key in your master. And then you need to copy those SSH keys onto your nodes, all the nodes. And then you can try like by using this SSH-root at IP address. So by which you will be able to see whether SSH connectivity is working fine or not. If you want to run any playbooks or ad hoc commands, you definitely need to have this SSH connectivity between your machines. So that is for sure. And in cloud, when you're doing it, so you need to do some changes. Basically, you want to edit this file etc ssh sssd config. So wherein you need to change this password authentication to S and root login to S, and then you need to change the password of your root. So then when you type in SSH copy -id, so it will prompt you to enter the password. If you don't do these steps in Google Cloud or AWS machines, so then you won't be able to copy your SSH, like the private public key exchange won't be happen. Okay, so this is especially in cloud. If you have your own machines, which is like your Vagrant or in that kind of environment, if you're doing, so you don't need to do these changes, especially when you're doing it. Like in my case, I'm using a Google Cloud. If you don't do these steps, so then I won't be able to connect it easily. And then, so these are all the configurations basically you need to do. So you need to install only Ansible on master. Other things you need to have a SSH connectivity, and then SSH, after SSH connectivity, you need to change the password. So that is one thing you need to do for the root. And if it is cloud, so as I said, you need to use the basic authentication. You need to set it to S and root login to S. Okay, and the next question was Ansible roles and why we need Ansible roles. Have you worked on Ansible Galaxy? So let's see a theoretical part. So roles provide a framework for a fully independent or interdependent collection of variables, tasks, files, templates, and modules. And basically, if I want to say in a layman terms, roles is basically it's a reusable component. And also, like let's say it's a complex task in Ansible that you want to divide it across multiple developers, and someone handles the templates part. What are the files that has to be copied, or like if your application needs handled by someone, and the task will be written by someone and the variables will be declared by someone. In that case, so you can distribute the task and they can and also like your application involves many different applications to be uh, installed and reconfigured so continuously. So in that case, what you can do is you can create a kind of like folder structure wherein like you can assign that folder to them, and they can individually work on that, and then they can commit it. So then you can refer those roles onto your playbook, and then you can run it. So roles are not playbooks, so wherein it is just a small independent folder or independent thing that you can develop it, and then you can refer that on that onto your playbook. So let me show the example for you. So again, I'm using Ansible much, not Ansible. So I've stored all my thing in GitHub. So I can, if you want to play with this, again, I'm telling you, like you can go ahead and fork this, and you can play with all these things. So for the roles examples, the folder that I'm gonna take is like the Tomcat standalone. Here, if you see, so this is my playbook. Here, if you see, this is how the roles are not direct playbooks. You want to refer them, if you want to execute them, so then you need to definitely uh, call them in your playbook. So this is how, this is roles, and then you need to refer it with like the folder names. Like if you see there, I have Selenium. Uh, yeah. So in the roles, inside the roles folder, so I have two things. One is SC Linux and the Tomcat. Here, if you see, again, there will be a folder structure. In this case, I don't have, because I just wanted to have only the tasks. So that's why I just have a tasks here. When you see the another folder, which is a Tomcat, so wherein I have couple of folders, files, handlers, templates, tasks, everything. So this is for like, you should have, whenever you're writing a code, it should be properly organized. If someone sees, like, they'll be able to easily figure it out, like where the tasks are, where the variables are, like that. Like to have a better uh, understanding, like to manage your project in a better manner. So you'll go for roles, and then you can manage your project very well. And also, uh, many complex tasks, if it is the much work is there, so then you can distribute it account in your team, and then you can ask them to work individually. Okay, and the next part was like what is Ansible Galaxy. So I can make use of Ansible Galaxy commands to create these folder structure. So rather than creating manually these folders, so when you use the Ansible Galaxy, so it will go to Galaxy repository, and it will gonna, like, if you want Tomcat Tomcat things, so then you can say like Ansible Galaxy or Tomcat, and then it will gonna fetch the folder structure Ansible Galaxy init, and the role name, if you give, it will gonna create a folder structure for you. That's all. Okay, if it is already there, somebody was developed, so then it will gonna fetch that, and it will gonna place it here. You can change according to that. Okay, so then the next one is Ansible Facts. So Ansible Facts collects like Ansible collects everything, the much information that it want to run. If you want to run a playbook, so the Ansible master should have the information about your nodes, right? So then definitely it should have some data about your node. So what kind of node it is, where it is, what is IP, what is private IP, what distribution it is. All those facts should be taken into account. So those things, that meta information about your nodes, is called as facts. And so there is a ad hoc command by which you will be able to see what are all the facts that it will going to collect. So it is very simple. So this is my Ansible master as well. So when I type in Ansible, and then if I want to check the facts of one of the mission, so what I'll do, one of the nodes, so then I can use before this I need to use -i, but all, I'm telling it as all, and then I need to give IP. I don't have any so let me go here. So this is my one of the node, so let me copy this and then give it here. Oh, sorry about that. Let me clear the screen. And Ansible -i and all. So I need to give that IP. So let me copy it again. And then I need to give comma, and I need to specify the module what I'm running. Setup is the module that I'm running. So setup is a module, you'll get the facts. Oh, that is a mistake. Ansible unable to. Okay, I guess I need to give all at the beginning. This is how it will take. See, these are the facts it will gonna collect for us. So this is how, if you want to get the information, like you can set like gather facts to false as well. So and like it doesn't collect if you don't want to collect the information about your nodes, so then you can do that as well in the playbooks. So this, I mean, this is how like Ansible gets the facts about your missions, node missions, and then it will use it for it's like for its use. So depending on the distribution, if you want to execute few things, so then you can do that as well. So the next question was, can we have a Windows machine as an Ansible master? The answer for that is no. You can't have a Windows machine as master. As a node, yes, we can have a Windows machine as a node. Have you worked on any Windows module? So if you have worked on it, like you can say yes. But basically, like I mean, people never deal with that. But in some of the projects and in some of the scenarios, you never should really deal with like Windows modules as well. And can you list few of them and any extra configurations that you wanted to do? So I have a steps in my GitHub. So when you go to the Ansible repo here, if you click on wiki, so I have one page. So connecting a Windows node to the master. So wherein like I have the steps for that, so I can follow these things. So you can easily do it. The extra things that you want to do is in Ansible master, you need to install few things. Pip install pip install pywinrm. So you need to do those things, and also in host file you need to define these variables. So Windows username, password, and Ansible connection. So everything you need to define those things. And also if they ask you to the name the modules, so then I have a link here. You can go ahead and you can look into it. Like there are a couple of modules for Windows as well. Chocolatey. Chocolatey is a package manager for Windows. So when you type in like m install a tree, so it will gonna install tree application for you in CentOS, right? Like that only in Windows. If you want to install anything, so then you can go ahead and you can use Chocolatey. So you can install the applications very easily. So there are a couple of modules you can use that. Okay, and in Windows machine also PowerShell. So you need to copy some script, and then you need to execute it. So these are the steps like I've just documented in a proper manner. So you can go ahead and you can have a look into this. Like you can add a node as a Windows. So that is you can do it, but not you can't use that as a master. And next, the questions were on Docker. So have you worked on multi-stage Docker file? So why we need it? The Docker multi-stage Docker file is very important concept. So one of the best practices to reduce the image size, you can go for this multi-stage Docker file, and you can reduce your image size explicitly. And why we need that? So basically, I said like it's one of the best practices, and you can also reduce the image size. So to discuss this, let's say we will take one scenario. So the scenario is like, let's say I have a code in my local. So what I want to do is I want to copy that local code onto my container. I need to do mvn install. So I need to, in that container, what it should have is Maven and also the Tomcat. So once the Maven install is done, so I'm gonna get the war file, right? I need to transfer that war file to my web apps folder of Tomcat. So in this case, we can deal this one in many ways. So what you can do, you can take CentOS a base image. On top of that, you can install Maven, and you can install Tomcat. So wherein like now the image size might be increasing because you have a CentOS as a base image. On top of that, you are installing a Maven and Tomcat, right? So, and also in other way, you can take Maven image. On top of that, you can install Tomcat. But to avoid all these things, we can go for a multi-stage Docker file. So let me, so this is the repo java underscore multi-stage Docker file. If you have a look at this, so see, either you need to see, I have other Docker files as well, so which don't work properly. So wherein like you need to take from Maven and you need to install Tomcat, and then you need to do npm install. The file system will gonna increase like anything. When you, where you see like a Docker file Ubuntu, so this is a, you need to take Ubuntu and then you need to install Maven, Tomcat, and then you need to do configurations on top of that as well. But when you go for a multi-stage Docker file, so here I'm using two base images, like two froms. So what it does, it will execute all these steps, and whenever the next from comes, all these things are moved to the Docker cache. So from Docker cache, I'm referring that WAR file and I'm placing it in WebApps file. So now my image size will only consider, so this things, like these things. So the base image is Tomcat. So now I can take off like Maven part. So that Maven part is not included in my image size at all. So by using a multi-stage Docker file, so you can reduce your image size, and also, which is one of the best practices to use in your Docker. And can I copy a file from a local running container? Yes, you can do that. So let me go to my mission. Let me clear my screen. Let me check any Docker containers which are running. Oh, there are many, but so these are related to my Kubernetes. So what I'll do is I'll just gonna create one of the container, Docker run -d busy box, and then let me give bin sh as well, -it bin sh. Okay, when I do this one, so a Docker container will be created, Docker ps. As you can see, whatever the container that I've created, it is there here now. Okay, so now if I want to copy this onto my container, so like let's say delete.sh I want to copy. So there is a command docker cp. Before this, let me clear the screen. I'll copy the container ID, docker cp, and then you need select like what file you want to do, and then you need to give the container ID colon and where you want to copy. I wanted to copy to the root directory, so that's why I'm just giving a root. Okay, so now let me log in for that particular container, docker exec -it, and then container ID, and then we need to give bin sh. So I'll be inside container. Now when I do ls here, so I'll be able to see that file. So for the confirmation, so I'll just view the content of it. It should be same the script that we've copied from GitHub onto my machine. So now from my machine, I've copied onto the container. So if you want to copy any file to the running container, so this is also one of the option you can use. And next is, let's say I have a container which is attached to a volume. If the container crashes down or it fails, so what happens to the volume? So in that case, volume won't be deleted. So as you can see the command, so I'm already command also pasted in this one. So let's see in a live. So Docker, just run -it, and I don't want to give any name. I'll just give -v, which is for volume, and I've just named, so that is data -volume, and then I'm just giving that onto the container, which is like data, and then I'm giving busy box. Okay, and bin sh. If you observe here, I'm not running in a daemon mode. So directly I'll be going inside the container. When I do exit, so my container will be in a stopped state because I am not given an option -d there. So when I do -ps, it won't be there in the list of running containers. When I do docker ps -a, now I should be able to see one more. Sorry, I should give a. So you'll be see one more container which is status is exited. Okay, now we had the volume attached for it, right? So what happens for that? So it won't delete by default, so until unless user deletes that volume. Docker volume ls, so you'll be able to see the volume. So if you want to delete the volume, then you can use volume prune, or if you want to delete individually, so then you can do that. So if you want to delete all the volumes, then I can use docker volume prune. So this deletes all the volumes. Yes, when I give that, so I guess I need to delete the container before that. So that I want to make sure. Once that is done, so then you can use this command. You can remove all the volumes which are unused. So volume won't be deleted if the container is deleted or it is crashes down. So until unless like user deletes it, it won't be deleted. The next questions was on Kubernetes. So the first question was on Kubernetes was what is init container and sidecar containers? Can you give me a simple scenario where you have used these containers? So I have a brief video on this init and sidecar containers. You can go ahead and you can watch in my channel. And if you want to give a brief about init containers, so it executes before your application container execute, and also which won't be running always, which executes to the success and then it will gonna kill itself. So init container runs before your application container runs, and also it will be executed to the success. And also you can have multiple init containers, so it will gonna execute one after the other, first init container, second init container, like that. So if the second init container fails, so then your whatever the deployment you are creating, so it will gonna fail. So init container is basically used for if you want to do any pre-configuration before running your application. So then you'll go for this init containers and you'll do all those configurations there. And the sidecar containers, which is similar to your application container, which won't be used for like actual purpose, which is just like a helper for your application container, which just sits beside to your application container for the support of your application container. As I already mentioned, so I have a detailed video on this one, so you can go ahead and you can watch it, watch that one. Also, if you want to give a simple scenario, so init container can be used. So let me go to my GitHub. When I search Kubernetes, so I have a repo Kubernetes wherein I have given a init car sidecar container. If you see here, so in my case, what I'm doing is I am just taking a nginx and I am running. By default, nginx runs in HTTP, right? So I want to run it in HTTPS. So as you can see here, I've used SSL, OpenSSL container to create SSL certificate, and then I'm copying that SSL certificate onto my application container. And then I have sidecar container which sits beside to my application container, wherein it sends the log or whatever the application created. So that logs to S3, AWS S3. Okay, so that's why like I'm using these three containers. So as I said, like you can go and you can watch that video, you'll get a proper idea. So the next question was, so which one is the default deployment strategy? How it works? The default deployment strategy is rolling update. So there are a couple of other deployment strategies as well, like green, blue, green, canary, recreate. So by default, rolling update. How it works is like, let's say you have 5 replicas of your Kubernetes. So then when you do some changes, if you apply it back, so it will make sure one is down in your old deployment, and it will try to make sure it creates a new replica of the new version. So for this, what we will do, we will just clone this repository and let's see. We will deploy one of the deployment and I'll show it with the example. Let me clone this onto my machine. Git clone and the URL. So when I do ls, Kubernetes is there. When I go inside this, so let me go to deployment strategies. Under this, I'll go to rolling update. So here, so there are a couple of YAML files. So before this, let me show it you this in GitHub only. Sorry about that. It's in other folder, deployment strategies, and here a rolling update. I'm gonna take this app1.yml. When I deploy it, so as you can see, there are 5 replicas. Okay, so let me deploy that first, and then we will do some changes, and then we redeploy it. So kubectl apply. -f and then app version 1 I'm giving, and then tab. So it will gonna deploy kubectl get all. So then as you can see here, so it is creating 5 containers, 5 pods basically for me. And then now when I change it, so when I change little changes, when I do it for this app1.yml, and then when I try to deploy it, what we will do is let's change this container spec. So I'll just tag this one to something else which is not there. It should basically, it should fail, right? So let me, some random thing I've given. So now when I do kubectl get all, before that I'll just check whether my 5 pods are up and running or not. So now when I just issue again kubectl apply -f app that YML file. So now you'll be able to see kubectl get pods. So it tries to make sure one old deployment the pod into down state, and it will try to make sure one new deployment in a running state. If it fails to do that, so what it does, it will halt that procedure, like it halts that deployment. If it is successful, the revision, you have changed the revision, right? If the first pod is successful, then it will go to second pod, the older version of second pod it will gonna delete, and the newer version it will gonna deploy. So like that, like one by one it will do. If any error is there, then it will just stop it to one first part itself. And yeah, depending on your project, so you can choose your deployment strategies, blue green canary. There are a couple of deployment strategies, so you can choose it for your applications, but by default it is rolling update. Command to check the container logs. Anyway, we have one container which is failing, right? So what we will do, we will check the logs of it, why it is failed. Let me go back, which is quite big, and kubectl get all. And when I do this one, so when I do, if you want to see the logs, so then this is a command kubectl log, and then you need to give the pod name, so for which pod you want to see the logs, and then you need to give the option called as -c, and then you need to give the container name. So in the specs, if you go, if you see, my container name is my app, my-app. I need to give that name. Okay, when I do this one, so it shows me like kubectl logs. I guess I've just missed S. Logs it is. So when I type in, so it says like, see, error from the server. The container name, the whatever the image that I've given, it is wrong. So that's why it is failing. So if you want to check the logs of any container, so this is how you can do it. So let's get into the next question. So what are the types of services in Kubernetes? There are a couple of services, types of services, which is cluster IP, node port, load balancer. So cluster IP is basically if you want to make sure your application exposed inside your cluster. If you don't want to make your application available to the public, if you don't want to make accessible from internet, so then you can use cluster IP, and wherein you can give this IP, the service, the full IP or the full path, like domain name of a service can be given exchange with other services which are in the same cluster. Or else, like if you want to expose your application outside the world, so then you can go for node port. So there is another option which is load balancer. It uses a cloud providers. Basically, whenever you're creating a cluster in cloud, so then only this particular option will come into picture. So load balancer. So this load balancer uses the cloud load balancer, and it will route it, which is also basically whenever you want to expose your application to outside world, so then you can go ahead and you can use this load balancer and node port. So cluster IP, if you want to maintain your application inside the cluster, which should be accessible inside the cluster, so then you can go ahead and you can use cluster IP. So the next is what is the link between the pod and service? So when you're creating a pod and service, you need to make sure, so whatever the labels that you have, so the pod and the service. So when you create a service, it's the relation between your pod and service. It's not um, uh, between your deployment and service. The service is created for pods, not for the deployment. Okay, and you need to make sure, so whatever in your pod definition, you'll define some labels, right? So this label should match with the part of selector part in the service. The selector part and also the labels part in your pod definition file. In my, this is if you see here, this is my pod definition, right? So this labels, any of the one of the label should be matched with this selector in this one. So if it doesn't match, then it will be having a confusion. It might create this service for any other pods. So that's why you need to make sure the selector part and the labels part of your pod should be always same. And so yeah, so that's all. That's what I wanted to discuss in this particular video. So if you like the video, please do like, subscribe, share it. And also if you have any suggestion wherein, like, if I want to improve on the way that I'm answering the questions, you can always do comment in the comment section. And also if you feel any better answer, whichever the answer that I've given better than that, so you can, that also you can do comment it, so that like if anyone comes and watches this video, so they can figure it out. There is a best way they can pick it, that answer, and then they can answer it. So that's all. So thank you. Have a good day.